Jake Martinez walked through the long metal halls of the space station with his dog Buddy beside him. The station was huge and filled with beings from many different worlds. Most of them were much taller than Jake and looked nothing like humans. Some had wings, others had thick armor like lizards, and some looked like they were made of crystal. Jake worked as a helper on the station. His job was to talk to different alien races and help them understand each other. Most aliens thought his job was not important. They saw humans as weak and small compared to them. What made it worse was that Jake always had Buddy with him. Buddy was a brown and white dog from Earth. He was not big or scary looking. He had soft fur and kind eyes. He liked to wag his tail and play with Jake. The aliens could not understand why Jake kept an animal with him all the time. Commander Thexkar was one of the aliens who made fun of Jake the most. Thexkar looked like a giant lizard that walked on two legs. He had thick green scales and sharp teeth. His people were called the Krell, and they were known for being strong fighters. Every time Thexkar saw Jake and Buddy, he would make jokes. He would tell his soldiers that humans were so weak they needed animals to protect them. He would laugh and say that bringing pets to a space station was stupid. His soldiers would laugh too, because they wanted to make their commander happy. Zephyrians were another group that made fun of Jake. They were tall and thin with beautiful wings that looked like they were made of glass. Dr. Velana was their leader on the station. She was very smart and studied how different life forms worked. Dr. Velana often said that humans were not very smart because they loved animals too much. She would give talks to other aliens about how humans wasted time and energy on creatures that could not think like them. She said it was a sign that humans were not ready to be part of the big galaxy. The Vortakians were made of living crystal. They could change colors and talk by making musical sounds. They were very logical and did not understand feelings very well. They thought Jake's love for Buddy was strange and made no sense. They would ask each other why a thinking being would care about something that could not think back. Jake heard all these comments every day. He saw how the aliens looked at him and Buddy. Some would point and whisper. Others would shake their heads like they felt sorry for him. A few would just ignore him completely. The worst part was that Buddy seemed to understand that the aliens did not like him. Dogs are very good at reading the feelings of others. Buddy could tell when someone was being mean or unfriendly. His tail would stop wagging when certain aliens walked by. He would move closer to Jake when he felt scared or unwelcome. Jake would pet Buddy's head and whisper to him that everything was okay. He would tell his dog that the aliens just did not understand. He knew that Buddy was special, even if no one else could see it. Jake had grown up with dogs and knew how smart and loyal they could be. The space station had rules about animals. Jake had to get special permission to keep Buddy with him. He had to promise that his dog would not cause any trouble. He had to take Buddy to alien doctors to make sure he was healthy. He even had to pay extra money to keep Buddy in his room. Many aliens complained about Buddy being on the station. They said animals did not belong in space. They worried that Buddy might bite someone or make a mess. Some even said that having animals around made the station less professional. Jake's human friends on the station felt bad for him. They could see how hard it was to deal with the constant mockery. Some of them suggested that Jake should send Buddy back to Earth. They said it would make his job easier if he did not have to defend his dog all the time. But Jake refused to give up his best friend. He and Buddy had been together for 5 years. They had traveled to many different places together. Buddy had been with Jake through good times and bad times. Jake could not imagine his life without his loyal companion. The other humans on the station started to understand why Jake kept Buddy. They saw how the dog made Jake happy, even when everything else was difficult. They noticed that Buddy was always calm and well-behaved. He never caused any of the problems that the aliens worried about some of the younger aliens were curious about Buddy. They had never seen a dog before. They would watch from far away as Buddy played with Jake. A few brave ones even asked Jake questions about what dogs were like and why humans liked them. So much Jake would explain that dogs had been friends with humans for thousands of years. He told them that dogs were loyal and would protect their human families. He said that dogs could learn to do many helpful things and that they loved their humans more than anything else most aliens still did not understand. They came from worlds where animals were either food or enemies. The idea of being friends with an animal was completely strange to them. They thought Jake was wasting his time talking to a creature that could not talk back DR. Velana wrote reports about Jake and Buddy. She said they were a good example of how humans were not ready for advanced civilization. She claimed that humans still acted like primitive creatures because they could not let go of their animal connections. Commander Thexkar used Jake as an example when he trained his soldiers. He would point to Jake and Buddy and say that this was why humans were weak. He taught his warriors that caring about animals made a fighter soft and useless. The Vortakians studied Jake and Buddy like they were an interesting science experiment. They recorded everything Buddy did and tried to understand why Jake spent so much time with him. They made charts and graphs, but still could not figure out the human-dog relationship. Jake tried to ignore all the negative attention. He focused on doing his job well and taking good care of Buddy. He made sure his dog got enough exercise by walking him through the station's corridors. He fed Buddy the best food he could find and made sure he stayed healthy. Buddy seemed to know that he had to be extra good to help Jake. He never barked loudly or jumped on anyone. He always walked nicely on his leash and came when Jake called him. He was the perfect example of a well-trained dog, but Jake could see that the constant negativity was affecting Buddy. His dog was becoming more quiet and less playful. Buddy would sometimes look up at Jake with sad eyes as if he was asking why. Everyone was so mean to them. Jake would hold Buddy close and promise him that things would get better. He told his dog that one day the aliens would understand how special dogs really were. He said that Buddy just needed to be patient and keep being his wonderful self. Jake nor Buddy knew that very soon they would have a chance to prove to the entire galaxy that the bond between a human and his dog was more powerful than any weapon. The trouble started in the cargo bay late at night when most of the station was sleeping. Security Chief Daxamor was doing his regular checks when his scanner started making strange noises. He was a Trilarian, which meant he looked like a blue octopus but walked on two legs instead of swimming. Daxamor had been working security for many years and knew when something was wrong. The scanner was picking up weird readings from a large metal box that had arrived that morning. The box was supposed to contain normal trade items, like rocks and metal pieces that different planets bought and sold. The box had come from the rim worlds, which were faraway planets where there was often fighting. The people who sent the box said it was going to the hegemony, a group of mean alien races that liked to start wars with smaller planets. Daxamor did not trust anything that came from or went to those places. He called his team to come look at the box with him. The other security guards were from different alien races, but they all worked together to keep the station safe. They brought bigger scanners and tried to figure out what was inside the metal container. The readings were very strange. The box was much heavier than it should be if it only had rocks and metal in it. There were also signs that something inside was using oxygen, which meant there was something alive in there. The box was also much colder than the cargo bay around it. Daxamor decided to call his boss, Station Commander Kexala. She was also a Trilarian and had been running the station for 10 years. She was very smart and always knew what to do when there were problems. She came down to the cargo bay right away. Commander Kexala looked at the readings and did not like what she saw. She ordered her team to check the box's paperwork again. The form said it contained biological samples for research, but they were supposed to be tiny things like bacteria, not something big enough to need so much oxygen. The paperwork also showed that the box had special cooling systems to keep whatever was inside very cold. This was supposed to make sure the biological samples stayed fresh during the long trip through space. But something had gone wrong with the cooling system. Red lights started flashing on the box's control panel. The cooling system was failing, and whatever was inside was starting to warm up. Commander Kexala ordered everyone to step back from the container. She had a bad feeling about what might happen next. The box started making noise from inside. It sounded like something large was moving around. Then there was a loud bang as something hit the metal walls from the inside. The security team grabbed their weapons and aimed them at the container. More banging sounds came from inside the box. Each hit was stronger than the last. The metal walls of the container started to bend outward. Whatever was inside was getting stronger as it warmed up. Commander Kexala realized they were dealing with something much more dangerous than research samples. She called for backup and told all the security teams on the station to come to the cargo bay. She also sent a message to the military commanders of each alien race on the station. Commander Thexkar and his Krell warriors were the first to arrive. The Krell were always ready for a fight. They wore thick armor and carried big weapons. Commander Thexkar looked at the shaking container and smiled. He was not afraid of anything and thought his warriors could handle any problem. Dr. Velana and her Zephyrian team arrived next. They could fly, so they got to the cargo bay quickly. Dr. Velana brought her scientific equipment to study whatever was about to come out of the box. She wanted to understand what they were dealing with. The Vortakians came last because they moved slowly, but when they arrived, they immediately started analyzing the situation with their logical minds. They calculated how strong the container was and how long it would take for whatever was inside to break free. Just then, the container's walls finally gave way. The metal split open with a loud crash, and something huge stepped out. It was a creature that none of them had ever seen before, even though they had traveled to many different worlds. Creature was 12 feet tall and covered in thick armor-like skin. It had 6 powerful legs that ended in claws as sharp as knives. Its eyes glowed with a strange light, and there were patterns on its skin that seemed to pulse with their own energy. Commander Kexala looked at her computer and found information about the creature. It was called a Zereth Warbeast, and it came from the Death Worlds in the Andromeda Galaxy. These creatures were bred by evil aliens to be the perfect killing match, and Warbeasts were known throughout the galaxy as the most dangerous creatures that had ever been created. They were stronger than 10 Krell warriors put together. They were faster than a Zephyrian in full flight. They were smarter than most thinking beings and could learn how to fight any enemy. The worst part was that Warbeasts were trained to hunt and kill anything that moved. They had no fear and felt no pain. They would keep fighting until either they were dead or everything around them was dead. There was no way to reason with them or make them stop. The creature looked around the cargo bay with its glowing eyes. It was studying the aliens and learning about its new environment. Its head moved back and forth as it counted how many enemies it was facing. Then it opened its mouth and let out a roar that shook the entire station. The sound was so loud and frightening that some of the security guards dropped their weapons. Others stepped backward, even though they were supposed to be brave. The roar was not just noise. It was a warning that the hunt was about to begin. Commander Thexkar was the first to recover from the shock. He ordered his Krell warriors to surround the creature and attack it from all sides. He thought that if they worked together, they could defeat it before it caused too much damage, but the Warbeast was ready for them. It had been trained to fight multiple enemies at once. As soon as the Krell started moving, the creature picked its first target. It moved faster than anyone expected and jumped toward the nearest warrior. The Krell warrior tried to defend himself, but the Warbeast was too quick. Its claws cut through the alien's thick armor like it was made of paper. The warrior fell to the ground and did not get up again. The other Krell realized this was going to be much harder than they thought. Dr. Valana tried to use her scientific equipment to find a weakness in the creature. She scanned it with different types of rays and energy beams. But the Warbeast's armor was too thick, and its body was designed to resist most types of attacks. The creature seemed to notice that Dr. Valana was studying it. It turned its glowing eyes toward her and started moving in her direction. She quickly flew up toward the ceiling to get away from its claws. The other Zephyrians followed her, but they knew they could not stay in the air forever. The Vortakians tried to use their logical minds to predict what the creature would do next. They calculated its movement patterns and tried to figure out the best way to trap it. But the Warbeast was not following any logical pattern. It was using pure instinct and thousands of years of hunting experience. Commander Kexala realized that the cargo bay was too small to fight this creature safely. She ordered everyone to retreat to the main part of the station. She hoped they could use the station's security systems to stop the Warbeast before it killed everyone. But as they ran toward the exits, the creature smashed through the cargo bay. Doors like they were made of glass. It was loose on the station and ready to hunt. The real danger was just beginning. The Warbeast moved through the station like a shadow of death. Its first victims were 3 Vortakian engineers who were working late in the power section. The crystal beings never had a chance to run or fight back. The creature's claws shattered their bodies into thousands of pieces that scattered across the metal floor. News of the attack spread quickly through the station's communication system. Commander Kexala declared a code-red emergency, which meant everyone should go to safe areas and stay there. But the Warbeast was hunting faster than people could hide. The creature was incredibly smart for something that looked like a monster. It learned the station's layout as it moved through the corridors. It figured out where the air vents were and how to use them to move around without being seen. It could also change the color of its skin to match the metal walls. Commander Thexkar was angry that one of his warriors had been killed in the cargo bay. He gathered his best Krell soldiers and went looking for the creature. The Krell were proud warriors who had never backed down from any fight. They wore their thickest armor and carried their most powerful weapons. The Krell found the Warbeast in the lower levels of the station, where the life support systems were located. Commander Thexkar thought this was perfect because the corridors were narrow and the creature would not be able to use its speed advantage. "We have it trapped," Thexkar told his warriors. "It cannot escape us here. We will show this beast what happens when it faces the might of the Krell Empire." But the Warbeast had chosen this location on purpose. It knew that the Krell would think they had an advantage in the narrow space. The creature waited until the warriors were close enough. Then it attacked in a way they never expected. Instead of charging straight at them, the Warbeast jumped up onto the ceiling and started moving along the metal beams above their heads. The Krell looked up and tried to shoot at it, but their heavy armor made it hard for them to aim at something moving so fast overhead. The creature dropped down behind the last warrior in the group. Before the Krell could turn around, the Warbeast's claws had cut through his armor and the warrior fell. The other Krell spun around to face their enemy, but it was already moving to attack the next target. Commander Thexkar realized that his warriors were being picked off one by one. He ordered them to retreat and find a better place to fight. As they ran toward the exit, the Warbeast followed them, but it did not chase them directly. Instead, it used the air vents to move parallel to them. When the Krell reached what they thought was safety, the creature burst through a wall panel and attacked another warrior. The Krell's thick armor, which had protected them in many battles, was useless against the Warbeast's claws. Dr. Velana was watching the battle through the station's security cameras. She had set up a command center where she could track the creature's movements and tried to find a way to stop it. Her Zephyrian team was using their flying abilities to stay out of the creature's reach. The beast is learning, Dr. Velana told the other commanders over the communication system. It's studying our tactics and finding ways to counter them. Each attack is more effective than the last. She had been scanning the creature with every type of scientific equipment on the station. The results were terrifying. The Warbeast's body was almost perfect for killing. Its muscles were 3 times stronger than any natural creature should be. Its reflexes were faster than most machines. The creature's armor-like skin could stop most energy weapons. Its claws were made of a material that was harder than diamond. Its eyes could see in many different types of light, which meant it could hunt in complete darkness. Worst of all, the creature's brain was much more complex than anyone had expected. It was not just a mindless killing machine. It was a thinking predator that could plan and adapt to any situation. The Zephyrians tried to attack the creature from above using their natural flying abilities. They thought they could stay out of reach of its claws and use their energy weapons to wear it down. Slowly, Dr. Velana coordinated their attacks to make sure they did not accidentally hurt each other, but the Warbeast had fought flying enemies before. It waited until the Zephyrians were focused on their attack, that it grabbed pieces of broken metal from the floor and threw them with incredible accuracy. 2 Zephyrians were hit and fell to the ground with broken wings. The creature quickly killed the wounded Zephyrians before they could fly away. The others retreated to higher levels of the station, where they hoped the creature could not follow them. But they had underestimated the Warbeast's jumping ability the Vortekians tried to use their logical minds to solve the problem. They analyzed all the data they had collected about the creature and tried to find a weakness. They calculated its speed, strength, and intelligence level. They studied its attack patterns and movement behavior. Their conclusion was not encouraging. The Warbeast was operating at near perfect efficiency. It was not wasting energy or making mistakes. Every action it took was designed to kill as many enemies as possible while staying safe itself. The Vortekians decided to try a different approach. They would use the station's own systems against the creature. They tried to trap it by closing blast doors, but the creature was strong enough to break through them. They tried to flood sections with poisonous gas, but the creature's armor protected it. Meanwhile, Jake Martinez was in his quarters with Buddy when the emergency alarm started. He received orders to go to the civilian safe areas like all the other non-military personnel. He was supposed to leave his weapons behind and let the professional soldiers handle the crisis. Jake had been a soldier himself before he became a diplomat. He knew the sound of real battle when he heard it. The explosions and weapon fire coming through the station's walls told him that the military forces were losing their fight against whatever was attacking them. As Jake and Buddy made their way through the corridors toward the safe areas, they passed wounded aliens being carried to the medical bay. Jake saw Krell warriors with their armor torn open. He saw Zephyrians with broken wings. He saw pieces of Vortakian crystal beings that could never be put back together. Buddy was acting strange during their walk. The dog's ears were pointed forward, and he kept sniffing the air. His body was tense and alert, like he was tracking something. Jake had never seen his dog behave this way before. "What is it, boy?" Jake asked quietly. "What do you smell?" Buddy pulled on his leash, trying to lead Jake in a direction that was away from the safe areas. The dog seemed to know exactly where he wanted to go. He was not acting scared or confused like the other animals on the station. He was acting like a hunter who had found his prey. Jake trusted his dog's instincts more than he trusted the station's security systems. He had learned over the years that Buddy could sense things that humans and aliens could not detect. The dog's nose was millions of times more sensitive than any machine against his orders. Jake decided to follow Buddy's lead. He wanted to see what his dog was tracking. As they moved through the station, Jake noticed that Buddy was following a very specific path. The dog was not wandering randomly. He was following a scent trail. Trail led them through sections of the station where there were signs of recent battle. Jake saw claw marks on the walls and blood on the floor. He saw broken equipment and scattered pieces of alien armor. Whatever had caused this damage was incredibly powerful. Buddy's behavior became more intense as they followed the trail. The dog was completely focused on the scent he was tracking. His tail was stiff, and his hackles were raised. Jake realized that his dog was not just following any scent. He was following the scent of a predator for the first time since the emergency began. Jake understood what they were really dealing with. This was not just some criminal or terrorist attack. There was a creature on the station that was hunting and killing everything in its path. And somehow, his dog knew exactly where it was going. The Warbeast had been hunting for 3 hours when it found the perfect target. The creature had learned the station's layout completely and knew exactly where the most vulnerable people would be hiding. It made its way to the central plaza, where dozens of civilian refugees had gathered. The plaza was a large open space in the middle of the station where different alien races would meet and talk during peaceful times. Now it was filled with frightened families who had nowhere else to go. There were Zephyrian younglings with their tiny wings, Krell children who had not yet grown their thick armor, and Vortakian offspring who looked like small glowing crystals. Adult aliens were trying to comfort their young ones and tell them that everything would be okay. But they all knew that the creature was getting closer. They could hear the sounds of battle coming from other parts of the station. They could see the fear in each other's eyes. The Warbeast appeared suddenly, using its camouflage ability to blend with the metal walls. One moment the plaza seemed empty, except for the refugees, and the next moment a 12-foot monster was standing among them. The creature's eyes glowed as it looked at all the easy targets surrounding it. The adult aliens tried to protect their young ones, but they were not warriors. They were scientists, teachers, merchants, and other civilians who had no weapons or fighting experience. They could only watch in terror as the creature prepared to kill them all. The Warbeast was not in any hurry. It had learned that fear made its prey move slower and make mistakes. It walked slowly through the group of refugees, choosing which ones to kill first. Its claws clicked against the metal floor with each step, but the creature had made one mistake. It had become so confident in its hunting abilities that it had stopped paying attention to its surroundings. It did not notice that 2 other hunters had been tracking it through the station. Jake and Buddy had followed the scent trail directly to the plaza. They arrived just as the Warbeast was about to attack the refugees. Jake saw the terrified families and knew that dozens of innocent people were about to die. He also knew that the alien military forces had failed to stop the creature. The Krell warriors, the Zephyrian flyers, and the logical Vortakians had all been defeated. If anyone was going to save these people, it would have to be him, but Jake was just one human with a simple laser weapon. He had no chance of defeating a creature that had already killed so many trained soldiers. The smart thing to do would be to call for help and hope that someone else could find a way to stop the monster. Then Jake looked down at Buddy and saw something he had never seen before. His dog was not cowering or trying to hide. Instead, Buddy was staring at the Warbeast with complete focus. The dog's muscles were tense and ready. His lips were pulled back to show his teeth. Jake suddenly understood what his dog was thinking. Buddy was not seeing a monster that was too big to fight. He was seeing a predator that was threatening his pack. And in Buddy's mind, all the refugees in the plaza were part of his pack now. "You want to take him on, don't you, boy?" Jake whispered to his dog. Buddy looked up at Jake with eyes that were full of determination. The dog had made his decision. He was going to fight the Warbeast no matter what happened to him. Jake made his decision too. He had spent months listening to aliens mock his dog and call him useless. Now he was going to show them what an Earth dog could really do when his family was in danger. Jake unclipped Buddy's leash and set him free. "Go get him, boy," he said quietly. What happened next amazed everyone in the plaza. Buddy did not charge straight at the Warbeast like the alien warriors had done. Instead, he began to circle the creature, staying low and using the plaza's furniture for cover. Dog moved with a grace and intelligence that none of the aliens had ever seen before. He was not just running around randomly. He was using hunting tactics that had been developed over thousands of years of evolution. The Warbeast noticed the small challenger and turned to face him. The creature was confused because it had never fought anything like a dog before. All of its previous enemies had been large and had attacked in predictable ways. Buddy continued to circle, getting closer to the creature with each loop. He was studying the Warbeast's movements and looking for weaknesses. His eyes never left the creature's legs, which he had identified as the most vulnerable target. The Warbeast tried to grab Buddy with its claws, but the dog was too fast. He ducked under the creature's arm and continued moving. A monster spun around to follow him, but this only made it more dizzy and confused, and Buddy started barking. But this was not the panicked barking of a scared animal. This was the controlled barking of a working dog who was calling for help from his pack. The sound echoed through the plaza and beyond. Other humans throughout the station heard Buddy's call and understood what it meant. Even though they could not see what was happening, they knew that one of their own was in danger, and fighting for his life. Jake heard his dog's call and knew exactly what he had to do. He began moving to the other side of the plaza, preparing to attack the creature from behind. This was pack tactics at their most basic level: surround the enemy and attack from multiple directions. Warbeast was now facing something it had never encountered before. Instead of fighting one enemy at a time, it was dealing with coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Its simple hunting instincts were not designed for this type of warfare. Buddy saw that Jake was in position and made his move. The dog darted between the creature's legs and bit down on a nerve cluster just above the Warbeast's rear ankle. He had instinctively chosen the same type of target that would disable a large prey animal on Earth. The Warbeast let out a roar of pain and surprise. Its rear legs suddenly gave out, and it crashed to the floor of the plaza. The creature had never felt pain like this before and did not know how to react. Jake saw his chance and fired his laser weapon at the creature's head while it was distracted. The blast hit the Warbeast in the eye, causing it to thrash around blindly. But the creature was still incredibly dangerous. Even when it was injured, Buddy was not finished with his attack. While the Warbeast was struggling to get back on its feet, the dog jumped onto its back and began biting at the base of its neck. He was looking for the spot where the creature's armored skin was thinnest. Other humans on the station who had heard Buddy's call began arriving at the plaza. They were not soldiers, but they understood that they needed to help. They surrounded the injured creature and began attacking it with whatever weapons they had. The Warbeast was now completely surrounded and under attack from all sides. It could not focus on any single enemy because there were too many of them. For the first time since it had been created, the creature felt something it had never experienced before: fear. Velana and the remaining Zephyrians arrived just in time to see the final moments of the battle. They watched in amazement as the small Earth dog delivered the killing blow to a creature that had defeated their best warriors. Buddy had found the exact spot where the Warbeast's armor was weakest. He bit down with all his strength and held on. As the creature thrashed beneath him, the dog's teeth finally broke through the armor and found the vital nerve center underneath the Warbeast's death throes. Lasted only a few seconds. When the creature finally stopped moving, Buddy sat back on his haunches and looked around the plaza. His job was done, and his pack was safe. Every alien in the plaza stared at the scene in complete silence. They had just watched a small Earth animal defeat a creature that was supposed to be the perfect killing machine. Everything they thought they knew about humans and their pets had been proven wrong. The plaza stayed completely quiet for a long moment after the Warbeast stopped moving. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. The creature that had killed so many trained warriors was dead, and it had been killed by a dog from Earth Buddy. Sat next to the dead monster, breathing hard but still alert. His brown eyes moved around the plaza, checking to make sure there were no other threats to his pack. Blood from the creature stained his fur, but he did not seem to care. He had done what needed to be done. Jake walked over to his dog and knelt down beside him. "Good boy, Buddy," he said softly, running his hand through the dog's fur. "You did it. You saved everyone." Commander Thexkar was the first alien to speak. The big Krell warrior had arrived just in time to see the end of the battle. He looked down at Buddy with something that might have been respect in his yellow eyes. "Small warrior fought with great honor," Thexkar said slowly. His translator was having trouble with the Krell words he was using because his people had never had a concept for what they had just witnessed. "I have been wrong about your pack companion," the Krell commander continued. "I thought he was weak because he was small. I thought he was useless because he was not a warrior. But I see now that size does not determine courage, and warriors come in many forms." Dr. Vellana landed gracefully near Jake and Buddy, the Zephyrian. Scientists looked at the dog with new eyes. She had spent months studying humans and their pets, trying to understand why they formed such strong bonds. Now she thought she was beginning to understand. "Captain Martinez," she said formally, "I owe you and your companion a sincere apology. My people have studied many forms of intelligence throughout the galaxy, but we failed to recognize the intelligence. Ak was right in front of us." She gestured toward Buddy, who was still sitting calmly beside the dead Warbeast. "Your dog did not just use strength or speed to defeat this creature. He used tactics, coordination, and strategic thinking. He turned the creature's own aggression against it." The Vortakians gathered around the scene, their crystal bodies changing colors as they processed what they had witnessed. They had always believed that logic and calculation were the highest forms of intelligence. But they had just watched a dog defeat their logical predictions about who would win the battle. The canine's approach was not logical in the traditional sense, one of the Vortakians harmonized. But it was effective in ways our calculations could not predict. There are forms of intelligence that exist beyond pure logic. Word of Buddy's victory spread quickly through the entire station. Within hours, every alien on the space station knew the story of the Earth dog who had killed a Warbeast. The news traveled even faster through the Galactic Communication Network's aliens from dozens of different worlds sent messages asking for more information about Earth dogs. They wanted to know how such small creatures could be so brave and intelligent. They wanted to understand the bond between humans and their animal. Companions Commander Kexala called Jake to her office the next day. The Trilarian station commander looked tired from dealing with the crisis, but she also looked impressed. She had reviewed all the security footage of the battle and could hardly believe what she had seen. "Captain Martinez," she said, "in 30 years of running this station, I have never seen anything like what your dog did yesterday. Our best military forces could not stop that creature, but your companion found a way to defeat it using tactics none of us understood." Jake sat in the chair across from her desk, with Buddy lying calmly at his feet. The dog seemed unaware of all the attention he was getting. As far as Buddy was concerned, he had just protected his family like any good dog would do. "I want to formally apologize for how you and your companion have been treated on this station," Commander Kexala continued. We allowed prejudice and ignorance to cloud our judgment. We will not make that mistake again." She handed Jake an official document with the station's seal on it. "This is a commendation for exceptional bravery in the face of danger. It is the highest honor we can give to someone who has saved lives on this station. It applies to both you and your dog." Jake looked down at Buddy, who had fallen asleep during the meeting. The dog's peaceful expression showed no sign that he understood how famous he had become. Jake smiled and scratched behind his companion's ears over the following days. The change in how aliens treated Jake and Buddy was remarkable. Aliens who had once mocked them now stopped to ask questions about Earth dogs. Children from different species would point excitedly when they saw Buddy walking through the corridor's Commander Thek's car, approached Jake during one of their evening walks. The big Krell warrior looked uncomfortable, as if he was not used to having conversations like this. "I have been thinking about what happened," Thek's said. "My people value strength and fighting ability above all else. But your dog showed us that there are different kinds of strength. The strength to protect others, even when you are small and outnumbered." The Krell commander paused and looked down at Buddy. "I would be honored if you would allow me to learn more about your companion. Perhaps my warriors could benefit from understanding pack tactics." Dr. Velana was even more interested in studying Buddy, but now her approach was completely different. Instead of treating him like a primitive animal, she asked Jake's permission before running any tests. She wanted to understand how dogs and humans had developed such effective communication. "The bond between your species is remarkable," she told Jake. "Your dog knew exactly what you needed him to do without any spoken commands. He understood your tactical intentions and adapted his behavior accordingly. This level of interspecies cooperation is unprecedented." The Vortakians were fascinated by the emotional aspects of the human-dog relationship. They had always believed that emotions made thinking less efficient, but they had watched Buddy fight more effectively because he was motivated by love for his human family. "We may need to reconsider our understanding of how emotions affect decision-making," one of the Vortakians admitted. "Your dog's emotional attachment to you made him willing to face a creature that was many times his size. Logic alone might not have provided sufficient motivation." Jake began receiving invitations to speak at conferences about human-animal relationships. Scientists and military commanders from across the galaxy wanted to hear about Earth's domesticated animals and how they could be partners rather than just pets. Most surprising change came from the younger aliens on the station. They had always been curious about Buddy, but now they were brave enough to approach him. With Jake's permission, they would pet the dog's soft fur and marvel at how gentle he was, despite being such a fierce fighter. Buddy seemed to enjoy all the attention. He had always been a friendly dog, and now that the aliens were treating him with respect, he was happy to let them pet him and play with him. He especially liked the Zephyrian children, who would fly around him in circles while he chased them. Jake started a program to teach other humans on the station about the importance of the bond between humans and their animal companions. He explained that dogs had been partners with humans for thousands of years, helping with hunting, protection, and companionship. "Dogs are not just pets," Jake would tell the groups. "They are family members who have chosen to share their lives with us. They give us their loyalty, their protection, and their love. In return, we give them care, training, and a purpose." The story of Buddy's heroism spread far beyond the space station. News services throughout the galaxy carried reports about the Earth dog who had defeated a Warbeast. Human colonies on distant worlds felt proud that one of their animal companions had proven humanity's worth. Other species began requesting information about Earth's domesticated animals. They wanted to know if dogs could be trained to work with their people too. Some alien races even asked if they could establish breeding programs to develop their own working animal partnerships. The Galactic Council issued a formal statement recognizing the intelligence and value of Earth's domesticated animals. They declared that human-animal companions would be welcome on all Council facilities and would be treated with the same respect given to any sentient being. Jake received a message from Earth congratulating him and Buddy on their actions. The message said that their story had inspired people throughout human space and had helped improve relations between humans and other species. Military academies began studying the tactics that Jake and Buddy had used to defeat the Warbeast. Realized that pack hunting strategies could be effective against enemies that were designed to fight individual opponents. But perhaps the most important change was in how humans were viewed by other species. Before Buddy's victory, humans were seen as a minor species that was not quite ready for full membership in galactic civilization. Aliens understood that humans had something special, the ability to form powerful bonds with other species, and to work together in ways that multiplied their individual strengths. The galaxy began to see humans not as weak creatures who needed animal protection, but as natural leaders who could unite different forms of life. Jake would often think about how much had changed in just a few days. The mockery and condescension that had once followed him and Buddy everywhere were now replaced by genuine respect and curiosity as he walked through the station double.